Hello and welcome back to Betty People with Rachel Candelora. In part two, we are going to discuss Rachel's job as an analyst for racing TV. And first things first, only place to start, how did you get into TV racing, or racing TV, I should say?
I mean, the straight up answer is I was lucky. I knew someone who knew someone effectively. When I was working at Churchill Downs, I met the guy who got me into TV. When I was working at Churchill, British commentator Mark Johnson went and started working as the racetrack announcer or commentator at Churchill Downs, and I met him, and we've been together ever since as an aside. But I met him, and he's sort of like, you know exactly what you're talking about. You're really good at this handicapping, and you're sort of a breath of fresh air. You're this little spitfire of a person that just says it how she sees it, probably doesn't have the filters I should have. And luckily, when I came over, he introduced me to a couple of people from Racing UK at the time where he was working, and they said, yeah, we'll give you a go. We'll have you come in. You can do a 10-minute Kentucky Derby preview. And it was great. It went well. They liked it. I was funny, interestingly enough. I'm not sure why or how, but it was just, I said something off the cuff and it worked. And they're like, okay, we'll keep you in mind. And it was about a year later, I did a phone in for the American horses going to Dubai World Cup night. And it sort of started slowly with American racing. And then because of that, got into doing Turf TV, the old betting shop service for the late night American racing. And that's why I learned a lot of microphone technique, using earpieces, listening to people talk in your head while you're trying to talk, because I mean, there's always a lot going on up there anyway, but just add one more voice telling you to do something. It's quite a steep learning curve, but served my time at the bottom, learned every time I'd go in, try and do my best, try to be me, just stay true to you. And then got on to did one show about Kempton, because I love Kempton, live 4 miles from Kempton. And Kempton always reminds me of home with the track. It's the wrong way around, but it's very much like American racing. And they have the colored saddle towels, which I always think are very much fan friendly for easy spotting of horses. And let me do it, and we've been there ever since. So I got lucky. I knew someone. I mean, I may or may not have talent depending on what people's personal opinions are, but I knew someone and they got me in the door. But I'd like to think that keeping going and being me and doing the work and never taking it for granted, always do the homework. You always have to prepare. You do 110% when you know you're only going to get to talk about 10% of it, and hours wasted, but do it. But I got in TV because I got lucky and I knew people. So it's not the glamorous answer, but it's the truth.
Just on that note, what advice would you give, apart from, of course, 110% preparation, to people who are looking to get into broadcast television, especially for racing?
Well, I'd say with racing, I mean, one thing that people have always said to me is, it's obvious you love it. I mean, if you could tell me, I probably shouldn't say this on a betting podcast, but if they came to me tomorrow, I don't know who they is, the ubiquitous they, said you can never have another bet on horse racing, wouldn't bother me at all, because you can still handicap. It's still the puzzle you want to get into. But I would just say, make sure you love it. I work with people day in and day out who they have actively said, if I couldn't have a bet on this, I would have nothing to do with it. And that's just like, we're the people who are supposed to be bringing the sport to the public. And that's not exactly, to me, the perception we really want to be bringing. But just make sure you love it. It's hard. It's a grind. Not everything is the Derby. Not everything is Royal Ascot. There's a whole lot of 0 to 50 classifieds going on in there too. Make sure you just get into it and just learn everything you can. I mean, I came from, like I said, we had horses growing up, pets, fat horses in fields. I had a white pony named Snowflake, but the grounding that he gave me and understanding things like the different use of bits, how when saddle slips, jockey's weight moves around, lead changes, how horses can run green and they're not on the right lead, etc. Things like that, horsemanship, horse behavior, you just learn all of that. And that's helped me so much because I can come at it from different angles. The handicapping, I know what it's like to sit on a horse. I know what it's like to fall off a horse. You know what it's like to be bolted with a horse. But I would just say to people, make sure you love it, because it's a job. It's a passion. It has to be a passion. You want to make sure you never work a day in your life, but also mainly do the homework. Just keep doing the homework. If you think you've done enough, give it a break, and then try and go find something interesting. Always have that line, and that's one of the great things of broadcast TV. Always have that one line that people will remember you for, whether it's a funny off the cuff or it's a you know, a well rehearsed scripted thing. You know, a bit like last night at Chelmsford, Saeed bin Sur had his first UK winner of 2021. It was only his third runner, but still, you want to find the stories, you want to find the news lines. It's not all about betting. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into it. So finding those underbelly stories, that's what sets people apart from just the, yeah, you tipped another winner.
Couldn't agree more with finding those stories. You mentioned a lot of the good parts of working with racing TV. I've had other TV presenters on, and I've always enjoyed their response to the question, what's been your funniest on-air moment?
Well, recently, probably the one we actually mentioned in part one about Al Mufti, the Hugo Palmer horse, and thinking it should be favorite, and actually at 10-1, because that was really interesting, because I'd literally, I mean, the backstory, as we said, I was in Paris the day before for an Auteuil meeting, and we came back on the Eurostar that day and went straight to the studio. Literally had a duffel bag that I'd trekked around Paris and Auteuil for the last 24 hours, and it rattled because there may or may not had a bottle of wine in it, and I was in with Amy Ryan, who I've met for the first time, and she's hilarious. And we were in there and we were doing that race, and it was just making the fun joke about how afterwards when it won, it was all down, it was champagne handicapping. Sometimes that one glass can just get yourself out of your head and do that. And a couple of weeks later, John Hunt, who was commentating, just said that was really funny. But probably, to go way back, the first time I ever did any proper TV at all, back when Racing UK was at the Teddington studios, that 10-minute American shift that I got to do. I think the thing that kept me going, kept me on, was we were talking about this one horse for the Derby, and I said something to the effect that, I can't even remember what it was because it literally didn't do anything. It's got no chance. It's trained by no one. It's out of nothing. And like, it was just it was so derogatory, but it was quite like a witty sort of funny comment. But I think that was the one thing that people to this day keep going, that was really clever, being able to say that. Also, I said that Uncle Mo at the time would fold like a cheap suit, which was pretty ballsy, considering he was the reigning 2-year-old champion and current Antipost favorite for the Derby. But luckily
he did.
That's fine.
Now, one of the focuses of British racing, or well, racing all around the world over the last 12 months has been TV coverage, particularly given that now everybody's watching racing on TV. Has it taught you anything going forward? Have you had any innovations, for instance, that you think we should do more of this going forward, especially from a broadcast perspective?
Yeah, I've actually I have really liked and been really impressed with ITV's use of the Zoom calls with the owners. I think owners have gotten much more time to tell their stories because they're at home than they ever have, and probably sadly ever will get when everybody's back at the race course. I mean, very rarely do you get to interview an owner at a race course in a normal circumstance. I mean, sure, you won for Arthur and the Gulf Widows after the Grand National, and I know they interviewed Alex Ferguson after he had the 3-timer on the Thursday of Grand National week, with 2 weeks now we have. But the syndicate owners, the syndicate managers, the regular people who are winning regular races, or even beforehand. I think it's been fantastic doing that, and having the videos on when they're cheering their horses home, whether they win or lose. I think that's been so much fun, because it's made racing relatable. It's proving that it's not all sheikhs and multi-bajillionaires who can buy horses. It's proving these are just regular folks who got lucky, and for not a lot of money got a Royal Ascot horse. I mean, it's just making it that, oh wow, even us little guys, we might be able to do this too. And I hope that continues. And sadly, I know when everybody's back at the race courses and there's more trainers and people on the ground to interview, you're not going to get the regular people anymore. But I hope, here's hoping that we keep that going.
It definitely, I do think some of those innovations have been lovely. I should also add my favorite, the Reliant on Racing series. I think was a great piece of work. Well and truly, with regards to the little guy getting more time, hopefully in Britain we are not too far away from the return of crowds to the racetracks, and that hopefully will be the situation everywhere within the reasonably near future. What can racing do to appeal more sort of to the next generation? It's a debate that keeps coming up again and again, but we are seeing some big owners unfortunately leave the stage. Every sport is having to think about this now. Indeed, that was proposedly behind the European Super League, which had its birth and then death very quickly. Is there anything you think racing can do to improve its fan experience, to really give it a foothold going forward in the future?
Yeah, definitely. I think the main thing that it can do is actually improve the race day experience. I mean, everybody can watch it on TV, and a lot of people do, but we might as well start where the actual racing is, where the fans are born. You make fans at the racetrack. You don't necessarily make fans watching them on TV. You can start the process, but you've got to get there. You've got to see the horses. You've got to smell the sweat, hear the whinnies, hear the jockeys yelling. You've got to get that tangible experience. And then once you've gotten that, I think you're absolutely hooked. It's one of the things that growing up with American horse racing, there's very much, particularly by the Yankees, the perception that racing it's only about gambling. However, when you go to a race day, any day, wet Wednesday, even at the smallest track with all the pomp and the excessive horses are everywhere in your face, you feel like you've been to a proper sporting event. You've been to a proper event, and gambling just plays a very, very small part of that. Whereas in Britain, when you go to a Wednesday night at Kempton, you can't say there's anything just that's betting shop fodder going on there. And there's still people that go, but we can very easily, for not a lot of money, help improve the race goers' experience. I said, I've worked in customer service for many years, so I see it from a different perspective. And it's very American of me, but I'm going to say it. The frontline staff at race courses, learn customer service. I mean, some of them are so rude, and I have no problem getting a bag search. But when I ask, what are you looking for? And they either don't know or don't tell me, that sometimes it's a bit like, so you're just doing this because you can and you want to. And going up, get some knowledgeable people working there. I'm not saying on an everyday thing, but particularly Saturdays, Fridays and Saturdays, summer days, family days. Race makers were a really fantastic innovation a couple of years ago by British racing, particularly at the bigger meetings, that they were just there to help and to explain where things were, what to do, take pictures of you and your family next to Desert Orchid or Arkle, or name a race course. Do things like that put a friendly face to it, because it's the kids today that we want to get hooked to be in 20 or 30 years, the people who are like us, that are proper fans, truly into it. Also, it's about horse racing. And there's one thing that British racing doesn't do very well, and that's highlight and showcase the horse on race day. They're in the paddock for about a cool minute before they're out on track. They no longer parade in front of the stands. And I don't mean like a regular parade, but they used to always at least go a furlong down the track, basically, as you used to go in front of the judge and then go to the start. Now, basically everywhere, they're just going straight to the start. And I appreciate at tracks like Newmarket, by definition, that means they have to go in front of the stands, but they're going down at a gallop. You barely see them. It's down, up, and then you've got 35 minutes to the next down, up. We're not doing a lot to engage the horse with the crowds. And insofar as just have the horses, like at Kempton, they never go in front of the stands anymore. They just go straight to the other side of the track. Lingfield too, they always used to come in front, and now they just go straight to the start. It doesn't take any time to just trot in front of the stands for, half a furlong and then go back, because it is all about the horse at the end of the day. And that's what we, I think, in racing create that perception that in a couple of generations time, people have gotten hooked because of the horse. Gambling, drinking, whatever, that may come as side products, but it's because of the horse. And also, the customer service communication actually on the race course, race day announcements. I know they've stopped because of COVID, but you have no idea now if you're on in a race course and the owners are back, if there's a jockey change, there's a color change, if there's any late scratches, there's a going change half the time. And don't even get me started if there's stewards inquiries, because obviously all the bing bongs have been dismantled by COVID, and I hope they bring them back, but you'll be there and there'll be an instant and you have no idea or trust that the stewards are even looking at it. And that's coming more from a professional perspective, but people aren't stupid. They see two horses clashing and one horse loses by that much. They're just going to go, well, where's the VAR? Where's the yellow card? Why is the ref not looking into that sort of interference? Because we all love sports, do understand that, certain rules transcend. You can't cheat and still win. But unfortunately, sometimes the stewards may look at it. The stewards may caution or penalize jockeys, but we don't know that. So we just think, well, they cheated and they won. So that's the main ones. Just, and relatively inexpensive. Put horses first. Yeah. And just be pleasant to the people when they come, because it's expensive to go. So just make them have a good day. Let them have a good day.
I think that's a powerful point upon which to end this week's Betting People. Rachel Candelora, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure was all mine.
And thank you very much for watching.